Erling Haaland who? I'm trying to act like Manchester City don't even exist in the first 6 weeks. How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be doing a deep dive into every single player that I've picked for my Game Week 1 team selection. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Boom! This is what my Game Week 1 squad looks like. And I know that it's going to look a little bit different because I don't have a 15.0 Norwegian robot in the striker position, but that's okay. So I guess the first thing to address is going to be my squad structure. So I've decided to go with an only Salah structure because I believe that it allows me to maximize my flexibility. I'm able to bring in an 8.5 mid as well as a 10.0 mid, along with having Trent Alexander-Arnold in my defense. And those are options that I think are essential over the first couple of weeks. I know that I will get absolutely destroyed in Game Week 2 when Manchester City go to Ipswich and I don't have any single Manchester City player in my team, but that's okay. I think over the course of the first 6 weeks, I think Liverpool have very strong fixtures, so I'll be able to rely on Salah and Trent for points and more specifically, captaincy. The unfortunate part about starting without Haaland is that I'll be tempted to have an early wildcard because I'm sure when he gets his brace at Stamford Bridge, I'll be tempted to take a hit to bring him in and captain him in Game Week 2. But I'm just going to hold my nerve and I'm going to stay patient and just wait until Game Week 7. The interesting thing about Salah and Trent is that they're very expensive in their own right. Salah is 12.5, Trent is 7.0, but I think having my money tied up in those premiums makes it easy for me to find a route back to Haaland by just selling them. The idea behind setting my initial draft up is that I want to build a very strong core such that I'm able to prioritize spending transfers on my premium players rather than my edge pieces and my differentials. That's why I've decided to go with the structure that I have. In order for you to have a deeper understanding about why I've picked certain differentials, I need you to understand what my assumptions are within my draft. The first is that I'm expecting Trippier to find his way to Saudi. We're seeing multiple reports of him having meetings at beaches as well as meeting club officials of Saudi Arabian teams. And we also noticed at the halfway point of last season, Trippier was trying to force a move to Bayern Munich to join Harry Kane. Trippier has been a very good servant for Newcastle. He's been their best signing in the post-takeover era, but I think his time with Newcastle is coming to an end, and that's why I'm kind of assuming that he's just going to make his way out of the team. With Newcastle, I don't think they need to go out in the transfer market and actually specifically buy a replacement because they have somebody ready-made in Tino Livramento. So that's my first assumption. My second assumption is that I'm expecting Ivan Toney to leave Brentford. He was flirting with multiple different teams while he was suspended as well as after the season ended. So I think there's sort of a rift driven between what Toney wants for his career and where he sees himself right now. So I think he wants to move elsewhere. So I think it just makes sense for them to just come to terms and just sell him, get the money, and bring in some replacements. Unfortunately, the replacement that they got in already got injured for multiple weeks now, so maybe that will cause Toney to stay, but that's definitely something I'm monitoring, and I'm currently assuming that he's going to leave. My next assumption is going to be about Max Kilman. So he was the Wolves captain. I just find him to be a really solid defender. He's deceptively quick and really good as an on-ball defender. It was already confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that Kilman is moving to West Ham, which I think is a great signing for them. But I think Wolves need to go into the market in order to replace their club captain. At least that's what I'm assuming that they would do. There's no way they would just go into the season without replacing a quality player like Kilman. So that's my third assumption. My fourth one is that I'm expecting Saka to return to training on time. There aren't any issues with him. He doesn't pick up any knocks or injuries from the Euros. I'm hoping that things evolve okay. Similar to the way that Andy, Let's Talk FPL is thinking, I'm hoping that if Saka is fit, I can have him in my Game Week 1 squad, even if there are reduced minutes. My last assumption is that Liverpool passed the eye test in their last preseason game. I'm going to be watching all the Liverpool games in preseason, especially specifically because I'm a Liverpool fan, but of course because I'm going to be going for Salah as my differential. So I want to make sure that he's picking up good positions. But the issue right now is that I'm watching the new patterns of play, but it's hard to really take anything from that because Darwin's not there, Diaz is not there, Gakpo's not there, McAllister's not there, Van Dijk is not there, Trent is not there. A lot of the key first 11 players are not in the squad right now. So I think it's very important that we watch the last preseason game, see the patterns of play with the players that are going to be in those positions in the real season, and see if I still think that Salah is deadly and picking up good attacking positions, and if Trent is going to be picking up creative roles in the right back position rather than playing in a mechanical or monotonic like center defensive midfield role. So I just want to be monitoring those things and making sure that the players that I want are passing my eye test. Moving back to my squad, the first position I wanted to discuss was going to be the goalkeepers that I have chosen. I've decided to go for the 4.5 and 4.0 combo of the Wolves keepers, and Jose Sa will be my main 4.5. And you're probably wondering, why would you pick a goalkeeper playing for the 17th best defense in the league, along with having very poor fixtures to start the season, where they play 6 of last year's top 7 teams in the first 8 games? Like, that just sounds like suicide. Do you really care about points, Kanji? Well, I do. And I just think that goalkeeper points are just so random because you get points from saves, bonus, as well as clean sheets. In fact, you would think that keepers that play for good defenses would end up with more FPL points, but I'm just not sure if that's true. For example, I've actually organized this table from the worst to the best defenses, and you'd see that Wolves are going to be towards the top of the list, of course. But if you go towards the mid-table, we'd see a team like Bournemouth, and those keepers got 130 points. Chelsea, their keepers got 130 points. Brentford, their keepers got 120 points. And you know how many points the Wolves keepers got? 125. So the difference between keepers that play for good teams and bad teams isn't that big, because the keepers that play for poor teams don't keep as many clean sheets, but they probably get more saves and end up with more bonus when they keep the clean sheet. So I just think when you're picking your 4.5 goalie, just try to secure minutes. And for me, I'm just trying to bring in the keeper that I think is just one of the best in this category overall. In the past 3 seasons, Jose Sa has been priced at 5.0. And I think I really like his expected goal prevented data. Expected goal prevented data is calculated by taking the expected goals conceded and minusing the actual goals that were conceded. So last season, he actually prevented 8.5 extra goals, meaning that he saved 8.5 extra goals from going in. The season before that, he had a poor season, conceding 6.7 more than he should have. But the season before that, he conceded 7.5 goals fewer. So over a 3-year sample size, he is a very solid goalie. Just for context, Alisson is probably the best keeper in the league, and he usually averages plus 4.5 expected goals prevented. So it just shows you how great of a shot stopper Jose Sa is, and I feel like if Wolves end up keeping a clean sheet, Jose Sa will be pivotal in games like that, so that's why I want to bring him into my starting 11. Moving on to my defense, I've decided to go with 1 premium option and then go with 4.5 options that will rotate. The reason that I've only gone with 1 premium is I'm not sure how many premium defenders I want within my team. I find that I really want to be spending the money in the midfield, but on top of that, I'm not sure how many premium defenders I can trust that can play 90 minutes like there were in previous seasons. The only 6.0 premiums that I really trust would be Vardiol and Saliba, so I felt like if one of those players ever got injured or there was a question mark over one of them, I really only want to have 1 premium in my defense anyway, so I've decided to just go with a 1 premium structure and just allow the other premium to just destroy me. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to get enough points from the 4.5 options that I have selected. I've decided to go with 2 4.5 rotation pairings rather than having some 5.0s in my team, because I just believe that if I'm able to rotate them well enough, I'll be able to start the 4.5 options that will have access to attacking returns as well as clean sheets, and I think that combination will be able to outscore a 5.0, but you got to put everything in context. It really just depends on how strong you believe in that rotation. And for me, I'm a big fan of the 4.5 options that I have selected. So let me break them down for you. The first rotation pairing is going to be Livramento with Vitai Mykolenko. So for me, I want to make Livramento my hero in my defense. So if there's ever a week where I'm unsure of who to start, I will start Livramento. He is playing for a Newcastle defense, probably in the right back position once Trippier is confirmed to leave, who were the 9th best defense for expected goals conceded. With Livramento, it's interesting because he used to play for Chelsea and then went on loan to Southampton. That was the one time where I've seen him play, and he played 2,000 minutes and picked up 80 FPL points, playing for a team that was fighting relegation. If he's going to be playing 3,000 minutes, playing for a team that's going to be in mid-table, I would expect at least 120 FPL points. So that's why for me, I think Tino Livramento is an absolute lock to start in my FPL team as long as Trippier leaves. Moving on to the second option in the rotation pairing, which is going to be Vitai Mykolenko. Now, Everton were the 6th best defense in terms of expected goals conceded, and everyone else in the Everton defense is priced at 5.0. Branthwaite, Tarkowski, and Pickford. So with Mykolenko, there's a risk for injuries as well as illness, which is very frustrating. But I just feel like with him playing once a week, I think you can trust him. Similar to Livramento, I'm expecting 10 clean sheets as well as 5 attacking returns from this option, and I really do trust Everton defensively under Sean Dyche. what I noticed is that usually they keep a lot of clean sheets towards the second half of the season and not in the first half of the season. But when I'm going to be relying on Miklenko, it's not going to be in the first couple of weeks. It's mainly going to be in the weeks from 6 to game week 11. So I'm hoping by that time they would have already had their phase where they think they can go out there and win games comfortably. I'm hoping that they would have tightened up by that time. So that's why I'm going to be going for Miklenko plus Livramento. I think the rotation is very strong in terms of getting good fixtures, and that's why I'm not going to be going for a 5.0. My second rotation pairing, and this is my favorite rotation pairing, and this is going to be the Crystal Palace and Brentford rotation. An interesting stat about Crystal Palace is that after Glasner took over, they became the fourth best defense in terms of expected goals conceded. That stat shocked me, I'm not going to lie. So as soon as I found that there was a 4.5 defender option from Palace, I knew that I just had to find somebody that rotated really well with Crystal Palace, and that's where I found Brentford, because whenever I would need to play them, they seem to always have a good fixture as well as it being at home. In game week 3, they have Southampton at home. In game week 7, Wolves at home. In game week 9, Ipswich at home. In game week 13, Leicester at home. So I just feel like whenever I need to be calling upon Pinnock, he has a very good fixture and it's at home. So I think if there's ever going to be a 50-50 decision, I will lean towards playing the Palace defender, but the rotation really just picks itself. So I'm really happy, and I think this is going to be my favorite 4.5 rotation. So if I were to drop one, it would probably be the Newcastle and Everton one rather than the Palace and Brentford one, because I think these two just rotate almost seamlessly. Coming back to my defense, I'm going to be starting with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I think is a world-class talent. The fixtures for Liverpool from game week 1 to 6 are incredible. Arsenal's good fixture swing starts in game week 6. Manchester City's good fixture swing starts in game week 7. So it buys me enough time to see if I want to bring in one of Gabriel or Saliba in game week 6. I'd obviously prioritize Gabriel because he has the aerial threat. But if we notice that there is rotation risk, then I would just avoid him and bring in a Saliba. If not, then I would just bring in Vardiel, who I think has the triple threat of clean sheets, goals, and assists. I think he will absolutely kill it from game week 7 to game week 10, so I would like to get there as well. So I'd be able to pick one of those and just hold that one premium for a larger period of time. Moving on to the midfield, this is where the money is made, boys. You'll notice a theme with all my attackers. They're usually 90-minute men on the penalties, not only just in my midfield, but also as my strikers as well. That's something that I've tried to prioritize this season, and that's what I've learned based on stuff that I've noticed last year, because there's not going to be any rotation risk with players like this. You only have to worry about injury risk. So looking at my midfield in particular, I've gone for two 7.0 options because I think they're the best 7.0s in the game on the penalties for their respective clubs, especially if Tony leaves. The less I talk about my differentials, the better. I just wanted to mention that in case there are any 6.5 options that start on fire, I can always just move down from players like Mbumo and Eze down to a super hot 6.5 mid in my midfield. Then I want to be talking about my premium midfielders. So I've decided to go with the 12.5, a 10.0, and an 8.5 because I really like those price points. I can always move from a Bruno to an Odegaard. I can move from Saka to a Foden or a Son or a Palmer, and I can move from Salah and get the money to bring Haaland back, of course. So that's kind of why I've gone with those three midfielders. In particular, I just felt like it was very important to have access to the Arsenal attack. I know the fixtures for Arsenal are very mixed because they play against Wolves, Aston Villa, Man City, Spurs. They're not great, but I just feel like Arsenal are so strong. Their attack and their defense is fixture proof to me. And I just think that Saka, in my opinion, is an 11.0 asset. With him being priced at 10.0, I just think it's kind of disrespectful. Like, why is Palmer 0.5 higher than Saka? Saka has more historical consistency of proving that he's a 200-point player. This could just be a one-season wonder in Cole Palmer. Now, okay, calm down, Chelsea fans. I don't think he's a real one-season wonder. I'm just putting the question out there. Like, Saka has been doing this for 3 years straight, so I think I just want to be prioritizing him. And I think this is the year where Saka becomes the best right wing in the Premier League. So that's going to be my bold prediction, and that's why I think I want to be having him as my differential with only 20% effective ownership when he's been at 80% effective ownership over the past couple of seasons. It's just refreshing. I'm really happy to be going into the season with a very low-owned Bukayo Saka, when a lot of people that go for Haaland are trying to spread the budget and go for an option like Odegaard, who probably will get more minutes in the short term, but with fixtures like Spurs and Manchester City on the horizon, I don't think those are good Odegaard fixtures, so I'm really excited to be going into these fixtures with my differential in Bukayo. All right, so moving on to Bruno Fernandes. I actually posted a poll on Twitter that got 200 votes, and I was asking who do you think would actually get more FPL points in this upcoming season? And it was a pretty split vote, slightly favoring Odegaard over somebody like Bruno. But for me, I'm just a big fan of Bruno because he's just a 90-minute man on the penalties, talisman of his club. Even though Manchester United were closer to the bottom half of the table than they were to the top four, I just think this is the perfect buy low on somebody like Bruno Fernandes. In fact, I thought he was at risk of potentially going down to the 8.0 price point. But either way, I still think his value is going to be at 9.0 following a very poor season, only finishing on 166 points. And I think he's just very overlooked, and I'll tell you why. Because last year, he missed a penalty, and if he scored that, that would have been at least a 7-point swing, probably plus one more because Bruno is so good in the bonus, so let's say an extra 8 points. He also gave 2 penalties to Rashford, at home and away to Everton. If Bruno had just kept those penalties and scored them himself, he would have had an extra 12 points. So that would be 8 plus 12, which is going to be plus 20. On top of that, he also missed 3 games, and he usually averages at least 4 FPL points per start. So that would be another 12 points. So 12 plus 20, that's going to be around a 32 points. That would be adding on to his 166. So do you think a 195 point Bruno is worth it at 8.5? And he actually played for a very poor team last year, and he could have easily picked up 200 points. So I'm just trusting that Bruno, with his very strong underlying data of 20 underlying expected goal involvements, I'm just hoping that he'll be able to repeat that. And the reason why people aren't considering him is because they're spoiled by the other midfielders that were so strong last year. You know, they have probably strong affinity to the players that got them the points last year. You know, somebody like Phil Foden, who was priced at 7.5, 1.0 less than Bruno, but he was the Premier League player of the season last year. So why would you have gone to Bruno? Somebody like Son, who is a perennial Golden Boot contender, was only 0.5 more expensive than Bruno on the penalties for Spurs. So why would you have considered Bruno? Somebody like Saka was priced at 8.5 when Bruno was at the same price point, and Saka is going to be involved in the title race. So why would you have considered Bruno? So Bruno was just very overlooked last year, and I just feel like with all of those midfielders going up in price, they just creates a lot of value for somebody like Bruno, and that's why I'm going to be going for him as my differential, and I really like it. I'm really hoping to keep his effective ownership really low, and I'm happy to have him in my Game Week 1 squad. So those are the midfielders that I have selected. Now moving on to the strikers. So obviously Alexander Isak picks himself. He has similar underlying data to Ollie Watkins, but he's on the penalties and he's 0.5 cheaper. And I honestly think he's just a better finisher than Ollie Watkins because he picked up similar underlying data in much fewer minutes. I know with Isak, he's more injury prone, but whenever he just picks up the injuries, I'll just get him out of my squad. But for now, I think starting with Isak instead of Watkins is an absolute no-brainer based on the underlying data. On top of him also having better fixtures to start off the season, Isak is just a lock in my squad. Now, I have gone for the combination of Dominic Solanke and Adam Armstrong. You're probably thinking like, what the heck? Why would you go for these players? And you know what? I completely understand that. And that's why I really want to break down why. When I was thinking about Dominic Solanke, I just think he's one of the best value strikers in the game because I think they priced him 0.5 cheaper than what I think he should have been. When I look at the other players that are priced in the 7.5 price bracket, we have players like Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo, where they're just rotation risks. We just don't know if they're ever going to start and how many minutes they're going to get. Somebody like Ivan Toney could be an option, but you know the drama that's happening with him. Nicholas Jackson, is he potentially going to be playing 3,000 minutes again this year? I'm not sure about that under the new manager. And then somebody like Mateta, also being priced at 7.5. I don't think I would consider him either because he only picked up 12.3 underlying expected goal involvement last year. And then when you compare that to somebody like Solanke, who got 21.5 underlying expected goal involvement, that's really strong for someone in this price bracket. So he's also a talisman, 90-minute man on the penalties for his teams. And of course, we want to compare that to players like Kai Havertz, who picked up fewer expected goal involvements than him, but of course he plays for a better team and will probably pick up more points going into the season if he's nailed in the number 9 position. But of course, he's not in the penalties and he's not nailed for minutes. There are question marks about him. I feel like Solanke has very comparable data to Watkins and Isak. I know with Watkins, he really overperformed his underlying data, picking up 37 returns from an underlying 21 because he picked up 16 assists from an underlying expected assists of 4. So that's why Watkins had a very strong season last year, and I'm just not sure how sustainable that is. Versus when I look at Solanke's data, he picked up 21 attacking returns, and he picked up 19 goals from an underlying expected goal involvement of 19.5. So to me, that seems very sustainable. When I look at his assists, That's very low. In fact, usually strikers pick up at least 3 or 4 rebound assists where they take a shot, the goalie saves it, and someone runs in and taps it in. But Solanke didn't get any of those positive variances. In fact, he also missed a penalty in the double game week where a lot of people captained him or maybe even triple captained him. So I just think he's priced in a very solid price point of 7.5, which provides enough value. And I think there is upside. I just feel like whatever Dominic Solanke did last year is very repeatable. I think he can go out there and once again pick up another 19 goals. Maybe he can pick up 20 goals, probably be his target going into next season. If I were him, that's what my target would have been. And I just think you just ask yourself, like you see someone go from an underlying expected data of 11 2 years ago to 22 this year. Do we expect him to pick up the 22 again? Maybe or maybe not. But for me, I think I just trust him. Under the new manager, under Iriola, they're just playing really good football. There's just something really good about Bournemouth. The issue with Dom and why his effective ownership is so low is because of the fixtures. You see, he has Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa, and Man City. That's why nobody is going to be considering him. However, I just feel like I want to be starting with Dominic Solanke and trying to find somebody that I'll be able to rotate him whenever Solanke has tougher fixtures. And that's where in steps Adam Armstrong, because Solanke is going to be playing at Anfield in game week 5, playing Arsenal in game week 8, and Man City in game week 10, and then Armstrong would have Ipswich at home in game week 5, Leicester at home in game week 8, and Everton at home in game week 10. So that's why for me, this is one of the biggest advantages of starting with no Haaland is that I'm able to have an 8th attacker that I can actually trust. And if anyone else ever picks up an injury, I don't need to be selling any of those players within my squad. So that's why I'm going with a Dominic Solanke plus Armstrong rotation, and I have a very strong 8th attacker. So I have a very deep team, and I'm just trying to do my best in terms of mitigating the issues that I went through last year, which was using my wildcard early. I'm really trying to build a deep squad so I can save my wildcard for as late as possible whenever I feel like it's more optimal for my team. So this is what my squad looks like. I hope I provided some value to you over the course of this video. If I did, please just drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.